I think that if more people understood how important it was to spend Bitcoin rather than just hodl, I think that the world would approach Bitcoin adoption a lot faster and people would be more free because of it. And it would help divert some of the power and control away from the power structures that currently exist that do rob you every single day through inflation and money printing. And the fastest way away from that is through Bitcoin adoption. And I think that the lowest hanging fruit to Bitcoin adoption right now is for people to just get out and use Bitcoin in the Bitcoin economy. Go accept Bitcoin for something that you sell or produce or for your labor. Go spend Bitcoin with somebody that accepts Bitcoin. These things are things that any of us can do. We don't have to build a Bitcoin business. We don't have to start an awesome podcast like you guys have done. You don't even need to do any of these really complicated things. You can just go live your life, switch your money to a better form of money, and Bitcoin will grow accordingly.
This episode is brought to you by Microseed. Microseed engraves your entire Bitcoin seed phrase onto fireproof, waterproof steel, or titanium. Small enough to fit in your palm, strong enough to last a lifetime. It's durable, easy to hide, and built for secure storage.
If your seed phrase is still on paper, it's time to upgrade and take self-custody to the next level. Because not your keys, not your coins. Go to microseed.io and use code LUNA, L-U-N-A, for a discount, or check the link in the description below. Welcome back to the Moon with the Lunas. The Bitcoin price is sitting at $60K. Today, we're joined with Adam Simecka, Bitcoin developer, founder of Manna, a self-custodial Bitcoin wallet and payments platform, creator of Bible Beats, and board vice president of Bitcoin is Better. Adam has spent years building tools that make Bitcoin easier to use in everyday life. And today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin payments, self-custody, adoption, privacy, and where Bitcoin is headed next. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here with y'all.
Dude, this is awesome. We're so pumped up. I've been waiting to speak with you. Just kind of what we shared offline. I'm like, I see Manna everywhere. People are wearing Manna gear. And I'm like, well, we need to talk to Adam and see what's going on with Manna. So, just to, for our listeners that don't know, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your background and when you first kind of got introduced to Bitcoin.
Yeah, so the short story is I found Bitcoin when I was overseas in the military. I was working 24-hour shifts, and then I had 24 hours off. So it was 24 on, 24 off. So I had some free time to spend on, just studying and learning how to invest and save my money. And I started out with just educating myself on stocks. So I just learned, a little bit about what the stock market was all about. And through that process, I came across some stuff in, what we would call cryptocurrency at this point.
Yeah.
And it kind of just blew my mind because it was actually an article about proof of work that I was reading. At the time, it was actually an article about Ethereum, which I'm no longer interested in at all, but it got me down the rabbit hole. And
Yeah.
throughout my journey, I kind of realized that the real value was in, a network that essentially had solidified rules without any central issuer. And the only sufficiently decentralized platform in existence that could be a form of money is Bitcoin. A lot of these other projects, try to do something similar, but the root of problem of all these other projects is that they are centralized and they have a central issuer and they can change the rules. And being able to change the rules, in my opinion, completely eliminates the possibility of ever being money. And so
Yes.
that's why I kind of eventually found the light of Bitcoin. I built my first Bitcoin business in 2017. That's when I first started, at least. And then I launched that to the public in 2018. It was a plug and play Bitcoin miner company. So we produced miners, software and hardware that we sold. It's basically a box that you could buy, you plug in and turn on, and it starts mining Bitcoin for you. And we were the first ones to do that with an ASIC. There are quite a few other people that are doing it now, but we were the first. And we did that for a number of years. And then ultimately came to the point where I decided to take, everything that I'd learned and foundation that I've built and turn that into something else, which is Manna. And so I focused most of my efforts on Manna nowadays. But that's kind of where I came from.
That's awesome. And thanks again for your service. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
How
Thank
long
you.
did you serve for?
6 years. Yeah, I was in the Air Force. I was a firefighter. I got,
Wow. Thank
Yeah.
you.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah, we
welcome.
appreciate
Thank you.
that. We appreciate that a lot. And just kind of like most Bitcoiners, they kind of get introduced by crypto. It gets us down the rabbit hole, and then we actually find what the good stuff is, right? The Bitcoin. And so you taking your skills, putting it to Mana. And so, what exactly, for everyone listening, what is Mana?
So broadly speaking, Mana is a Bitcoin payment platform. So it is for making Bitcoin payments. That's the focus and the goal. And maybe even more specifically for folks like you and I, it is also a Bitcoin wallet. So a lot of people refer to Mana as a wallet because that is one of the primary functions. But it also has other features and functions too, centered around Bitcoin payments. For example, we have a point of sale system that allows merchants to build out their own store and run a point of sale that's more robust than just like a simple calculator. So you can add items and pictures and categories and taxes and tips if you want to do all that accounting and everything like that. So it's a little bit more, fully loaded, if you will, for point of sale. So it's both sides. It's, I guess
Yes.
the sender and the receiver, I should say.
Okay.
So whether you're a merchant wanting to accept Bitcoin payments or you're somebody that's wanting to send and manage Bitcoin payments, uh, that's what we that's what we do.
Yeah, that's great.
I was going to say, is it kind of like, I mean, say if someone was started an Etsy account, right? Would that be kind of similar to what that they would be doing? It would just be solely for Bitcoin to receive Bitcoin purchases?
Exactly. So Mana is self-custodial. That means you hold the keys. It's not a service that holds your Bitcoin for you or processes your Bitcoin. It is taking self-custody of the Bitcoin yourself. So everything is done and managed locally, which keeps everything safe and secure. And we can get more into that a little bit later too. But I'm glad you kind of brought up the Etsy thing because that's a good, I think, picture of what people use the point of sale for. We have a lot of like small businesses that use this, and they usually have like a tablet or even just on their cell phone that they have. They'll have a Mana shop, and they can ring people up just like a cash register basically, and accept Bitcoin payments on the spot. And so we have small businesses. We do have some bigger businesses that use Mana. And then, there's also some like organizations, nonprofits and governments that use Mana as well to process payments.
So, to add on to that, so if you can explain a little bit, why would Mana benefit more than, like, let's just say Lightning? I know that's one of the payments that where people, it sounds like it kind of dominates as far as, like, payments for Bitcoin. So, this specifically and for like bigger like businesses, or is this can be used for small and big businesses?
That's a great question. So, universal compatibility is extremely pivotal, or I guess monumental for what Mana does. Lightning is a part of that. So Mana isn't a specific protocol. Mana is just the app that allows you to interact with all the popular protocols in Bitcoin. So whether you're wanting to send over layer one on-chain payments or Lightning or Liquid or eCash, any of these things, you can communicate with all those protocols on Mana. So if you have a balance on Mana, you put some Bitcoin, in your Mana app, in the wallet, you can send to any of those types of people.
That's awesome.
So if I'm gathering this correctly, so it almost sounds like almost like a Venmo thing, but for like a business,
I
right?
was gonna say you hit that right on the money. I mean that's kind of been a philosophy of ours from the beginning. We wanted to make an app that was as easy to use as something like Venmo, which is really difficult with a self-custodial wallet because there's just a lot more complexity involved. Because ultimately it comes down to the user, right? There's not like a central database that stores these funds or users' data, which would make things like payments very easy and has been actually relatively successful with centralized custodial wallets. There are plenty of them out there that work very well, but The drawback to those is you're not the one that holds the keys to those Bitcoin, and you're at the mercy of somebody else. That means that they can monitor you. You have to ask them for permission if you want to send any type of a payment. Um, and they're ultimately they could potentially, be nefarious and steal your money, or they could just go out of business and disappear, and then your Bitcoin's gone. So, and I say your Bitcoin, it's not really even your Bitcoin. If you don't have the keys, it's not yours.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Now,
Yeah. I think that's super awesome because I think we are in a world where we're always using Venmo or Zelle or, those types of things. And I like that there's a component of where people who are merchants or wanting to sell things or, those type, they're have an easy one, sounds like it's a one place, one stop shop where everyone can kind of just have their items there and people can buy it from there too. I think that's really neat. I think it's really
Yeah,
neat.
I
go
think
ahead.
the big differentiator there is that obviously, you're interacting with Bitcoin, which is there's a lot of different protocols involved, like we mentioned earlier, and so it can be a little confusing. And so part of the big focus with Mana is to take all that complexity out so that the average user doesn't have to worry about that. So, all you need to know is if somebody says that they take Bitcoin, you can use Mana to pay them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it helps with the adoption process of Bitcoin, right? Like, I feel like I think
Hmm.
that's another really cool thing is that people are trying to figure out, okay, well, this was my question when he was, starting to go down the rabbit hole of Bitcoin was, okay, we're going to hold on for, HODL, right? And I'm like, but what? We can't ever use this. Like, we're putting all of, so Amanda gives it an option for people to be like, oh, we can actually use this money, which I feel like we should,
Hmm.
not that you should use it all, just like any other finances. You shouldn't use all your money either,
Hmm.
but it allows people to understand, oh, this is actually a way of like the future of being able to use this currency
Yeah.
and it still hold its value and all of that we've learned in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I think you're on the right track. I think that thought process and that philosophy is exactly where I try to encourage people to get to, and that is understanding that you can actually just use a better money, and if you agree that Bitcoin is a better money, then you should be using it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when they hear somebody say something like that, what they think they're hearing is they think somebody's telling them to get rid of their savings, right? So if Bitcoin's your savings account, like, and somebody tells you to start spending Bitcoin, it's like, well, I don't want to deplete my savings. It's like, well, you have to spend money anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? To
Yeah.
live. So,
Yeah.
if you have the choice to spend, a bad money or a good money, like, you have the opportunity to spend whichever money you want. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a reason why you have to spend dollars or
Yeah.
any form of fiat currency if you could also spend Bitcoin. So I'm not advocating for people to like get rid of their Bitcoin and just go into fiat. It's quite the opposite actually. I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
for me at least, the better option is to stop using fiat as much and start using Bitcoin more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so just to add on to this too, like you shared, you can either use good money or bad money. Mana is primarily for Bitcoin. So somebody has Etsy business and they're like, hey, I take Bitcoin on Mana. So does Mana also like take fiat or is it just strictly Bitcoin and then just use Venmo for your business or is it like, can it be all in one, like fiat and Bitcoin?
That's a good question. So Mana is Bitcoin only through and
Okay.
through. So
Okay.
if you are running a business where most people need to use dollars in their business.
Hmm. Yeah.
So if that's the case, it's very easy to integrate Mana in with another solution, like an exchange. So for example, I've been working with a local business that's been excited about getting involved with Bitcoin. And one of their challenges is that they need to be able to use dollars as well. And so they were having a little bit of a hang up with this because it's like, well, now we have the Bitcoin. Now what do we do with it? We need to be able to pay some people with dollars. And
Yes.
I sent them a 39-second video of the whole process of selling the Bitcoin with Mana. So, it's less than 39 seconds to sell the Bitcoin and get it into your bank account with cash.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
it's a really easy process. And so, yeah, that is one solution that you can do. But the other thing that a lot of people like to do is they'll accept the Bitcoin and keep that amount of Bitcoin, because you're not going to get 100% of your business in Bitcoin probably for most people, unless that is your business model. And so let's just say 5% of your, transactional volume is in Bitcoin. A lot of these businesses are happy with saving that much as Bitcoin, and then they don't have to sell any at all. And so this is kind of like their dollar cost average buy, if you will.
Ooh, that's really good. And then it could even be like their business Bitcoin stack as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
You
So it
yeah,
turns
that's
into their
actually
treasury. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually amazing because I was like, yeah, a lot of people we're still so early. I think if you want to do that model, kudos to you. I'm not gonna tell you how to run your business, but it just seems like we're still early and we're still using fiat. But no, I think that's really
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And so with Manna, how does this work? Are you guys collecting data, storing data, people's information, KYC? What are we doing here? Because I personally, I have not used Mana. I'm actually going to use it after we have this conversation. But I was like, you know what? I'd rather learn something from the person that created it before I like
Yeah.
go down the rabbit hole. Like I can ask all my stuff like right here, And so
Yeah.
if you could just kind of share that with us.
Yeah, great questions, by the way. And this is really at the core of our philosophy. We don't take any data at all. And it kind of goes back to a question you asked a second ago about, do we have any involvement with fiat in Mana? And the reason why those two are related is because as soon as you start to involve dollars, you're in the traditional finance system, you have to start taking that type of data, KYC data, known as know your customer data.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
because we don't touch money, we don't have to. And so we take zero personal data. We don't even take an email address. So
Ooh, that's
no
good.
name, no phone number, no email address, nothing. When you download the app, you get a recovery phrase, which is kind of like your username and password, if you will. And it's a
Yep.
12-word seed phrase that you can use to recover your Bitcoin either on Mana or another compatible wallet app. So you don't even need Mana when you get your Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin isn't stuck in Mana. You can take it elsewhere if you want to. And so, yeah, it is your Bitcoin. It's your keys, your coins, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a good identifier of whether or not you really actually have control, is whether or
Yeah.
not the app that you're using or the wallet that you're using will let you leave. If they won't let
Yeah.
Yeah.
you leave, then you might want to find another wallet. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, you're not stuck in Mana. If Mana went out of business or something happened, you could always, recover your funds without us. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, we don't take any personal data whatsoever, not even an email address.
Yeah, don't ask me for any information, Adam. I'm not giving you any information. Even in the traditional system, I hate like just filling out stuff all the time. Like none of this is necessary. At the end of the day, what do we all like are connected by? Money, right? Whether it's bad money or good money. So like at the end of the day, you just want this transaction to go through,
Yeah.
right? Or you want to build this relationship, whichever business you have, right? Some people are transactional, some people build relationships. So at the end of the day, it comes down to money. Like you don't need all this. You don't need my email. You're just like, you just want this data. You want to like harass me. You want to send me stuff. Leave me alone. Right. Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
No, that's really
Mhm.
good. So, most people really love to hold on to Bitcoin, use it as a savings account. Where did this thought process come from? Walk it through for us on why you wanted to come up with a payment system.
It just sprung out of a need that I had for myself. Got into Bitcoin about a decade ago, and I've been just trying to bring as many people along as I could, friends and family. And it was 10 years ago, it was a lot harder than it is today. At some point, I wanted to get people into, holding their own Bitcoin that they could spend. I'll tell a quick story of really kind of where the inspiration for Mana came from. Had just like this event. It was like a pizza party movie night kind of deal. I had a friend that put on this movie at his office, and he just had friends come. It was a Bitcoin focused movie about El Salvador, and he bought pizza for everybody, and he provided like, I think it was a Lightning address or like maybe like his Strike username or something. And he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna cover the pizza. If you want to, help spot me, just send me some sats. Here's my username." And a few people did that, and I got there, and we were having fun, and this new guy came that we none of us had met before. It was open to the public, so this guy that was new, he just showed up, and he's like, I want to be able to help pay for the pizza, but I don't know how to use Bitcoin. And he's like, all I have is $20. And I was there, and I just said, hey, do you want me to sell you $20 worth of Bitcoin, and then you can, pay him, and we can make it like this educational deal where you learn how to use Bitcoin and all that fun stuff. And he was like really excited. He's like, yeah, that sounds fun. So I had him download a wallet from the app store at the time. I won't name them,
Okay.
but it didn't work. So it was a Lightning wallet, a self-custodial Lightning wallet, and at the time, I was really hesitant to recommend anything that was custodial. This was around the time where a lot of blowups were happening, a lot of rug
Yep.
pulls,
Yep.
and yeah, a lot of people got burned, and so
Yeah.
I was not willing to recommend self-custodial, or I'm sorry, custodial wallets where somebody else holds the keys, right? You're giving
Yes.
your keys to somebody else. I was not recommending those anymore. So I
Yeah.
recommended the self-custodial wallet, which is still around today, still a great option, but they had some problems with it right then off the bat. And, uh, he was starting to get a little discouraged, and I was like, okay, well, let's try a different one. So I had him download a new app that he could run on his phone. And it was going to end up taking about $15 of that $20 just in fees to open up a Lightning channel. And
Yeah.
so yeah. So not a great first experience. And in fact,
Yeah.
you just like, no, forget this. I don't want any part of this. You can take the $20. I'm good.
Wow,
I
dude.
never saw the guy again. So
Yeah.
he was not impressed, to say the
Yeah.
least. And so I'm like, okay, we got to solve this. We have to fix this problem. And that's when I kind of made the decision that I wanted to start thinking about building something like Manna, where you don't have to worry about those problems that we had. There was some liquidity issues, and there were some fees issues, and there were some routing issues. And these are all very technical things that no one should ever have to worry about. And that's ultimately was the first time when I thought about building something to fix those problems.
That is such an interesting story. Well, and I feel like all of our best ideas come from a situation when we're put in a spot, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is not working how I wanted it to. Like, there's got to be another way. And you went through like 3 different ones, it sounds like, for him to be able to do this one mini transaction that should have taken, maybe 30 seconds of his time, to be able to go ahead and send that money for pizza. And he's like, he was probably excited to learn about Bitcoin, and he was like, peace out. I am like, which sucks. Like, it stinks for sure. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I think, fortunately today we have a lot of great options. Mana's not the only one out there that really recognized that problem. And so, it's not like we run into that as much anymore these days. But it is tricky, because if you get recommended, an option just from, some advertisement on somebody's podcast, you don't really know like what you're dealing with, whether, especially if you're new, like, what does self-custodial even mean, and why is that
Right.
important?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think it's really on the Bitcoin community to try to recommend tools that are going to, make people safe, and make sure that you're not giving more power to people that can ultimately, you know, uh, ruin people's days, to say the
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. You know what's gonna be super cool though is like later on down the road when Mana blows up, and then this guy hears this story, and it's gonna be like I think it'll be so cool. Like wow, like that whole experience like created Mana. I don't know. For me personally, like if I had a bad like awful experience in Bitcoin, and then I'm like screw this, and then like years down the road I hear like this company created this because of this situation. I'm like that was me. What this guy created it because of me.
there's
And
there's hoping there.
to
Sure.
piggyback on that is it should be easy. It like anytime you sign up for something, like it doesn't even matter if it's Venmo or Mana or like even for like a magazine or something, right? It should be easy, like a username and a password and be done. And then you just have this experience of like an onboarding process into getting more people into
Mhm.
the Bitcoin space and like, wow, this is like imagine if this guy was like had Mana back then. Wow, this is super easy. Like, wow, like how is everybody not doing? And then he, who knows where that goes where he introduces people to Bitcoin. So what do you think right now, Adam, is kind of slowing or dragging the adoption phase?
Um, Actually, I think that we're actually moving faster now in like medium exchange type of activity than I've ever seen before. I mean, just take for example what the Block team did with Square. They onboarded I don't know, millions of merchants over the last 12 months or so. I mean, that growth is crazy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I still see people saying like Bitcoin isn't being used for payments. And a common reply that I have to people is like, just go look at the Bitcoin map, go look at BTC map. So for anybody that doesn't know, there is an open source project called btcmap.org, and it's kind of like the Yellow Pages / Google Maps for Bitcoin businesses. And you can just see everywhere around you, or you can go to any country on earth and see all the businesses that accept Bitcoin for payment. And it's an astounding number. And if you haven't seen this or you haven't seen it lately, you should check because there are a lot of businesses taking Bitcoin.
Dude, that's interesting. I'm definitely gonna look it up when we're done with this.
Yeah.
It's
And
also
just
baked into Manna.
oh, nice. So
Yeah,
you can
so
just see it in Mana.
yeah. If you go into the settings and Manna, it's the second option. It's
Oh,
one of the
this is
most important
great.
tools
Okay.
in the
Okay,
app.
Mana. Okay, Mana. No, that's great.
No, but
Because
yeah.
go ahead, babe.
Well, I was gonna say because you're trying to let people know where they can actually transact with Bitcoin, not really just, yes, being a merchant is one thing on the, receiving end, but being able to go to places and actually, instead of asking, hey, do you accept Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Here's a map of the stores that do accept it. And we could just go and like support them, which is cool.
On that note, I have a quick story I want to share that kind of
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
relates very closely to that. So I went to I was traveling and I went to a Steak and Shake because I knew they accepted Bitcoin. And the waitress, it was one of the sit down restaurant Steak and Shakes where they like wait on you. The waitress didn't really know much about Bitcoin. I ordered the Bitcoin meal. It wasn't on the menu that I could see, but they had it and they were able to make it for me. And she started asking me questions about it, and I just said, "Hey, would you be interested in taking a tip in Bitcoin?" She's like, "Yeah, I guess so." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll give you your normal tip, but I'm going to give you an extra tip if you download a Bitcoin wallet, and I can send you some Bitcoin." So I had her download Mana, and I sent her the tip, and she's like, "This is really cool, but what do I do now?" I was like, "Okay, go to the BTC map. This is everywhere you can spend it. And by the way, look, we're standing right here. You can literally spend it here in your own restaurant." And she
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
even
Oh,
realize that.
dude, what? Like, how do you work at a
How did
place
you
that accepts
onboard onto that business and not know that
like
what
they
you
accept
accept?
Bitcoin? What? That should
That's
be like
interesting.
101. Like we're talking about money here. Like we're talking
Yeah,
about profit. And she doesn't
exactly.
even know that they can accept Bitcoin. That's a whole nother topic. I didn't oh my goodness.
But
Oh
she was
my
really
goodness.
excited because then immediately it was like it went from like this like magic internet money to like this real thing. Like now it's
Yeah.
real money to them because
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know I can take it, but can I do anything with it? Oh, I
Yes.
can get my lunch with it? Sure, okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's
That's
pretty cool.
awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
That is cool. And to add on that, so even with Bitcoin, right? So she gets tipped in Bitcoin, right?
Mhm.
She
yep.
has it in her Mana wallet. So if, for example, she's like, I don't think I really like this, right? Let's say she keeps it there. And she's like, I don't really like it, Adam. And she's like, I want to get cash. So can you convert that Mana into cash into like her wallet or her Wells or what? Or is it just like it stays in there as a Bitcoin?
So as of right now, if you want to turn that Bitcoin in your Mana wallet into US dollars, you would just send it to a third party exchange. We are working on bringing that into Mana though as well. So in the future, you will be able to buy and sell Bitcoin for US dollars in the app and other currencies as well.
It's
You know
awesome.
what? actually like it the way it is. Like, hey, you got to figure this Bitcoin thing out and you have money in there, figure out how to, get
Use it.
more of it or use it like because again, like sometimes when you do introduce that component of the US dollar, it almost is like, oh, why don't I just go use Venmo? Why would I just use this? So
Right.
I actually like the way Manna is set up right now, but I also see to help adoption too, that might be, something to integrate as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Speaking of adoption, I wanted to kind of see what you thought. Do you feel like realistically Bitcoin can become everyday money for, in the future?
Yeah, I think for many people it already is. I won't say I live 100% on a Bitcoin standard in the sense that I don't ever spend dollars. I spend
Right.
dollars every day,
yeah,
but I also spend Bitcoin every day. In fact, I try to buy anything that I need to consume to live. I try to pay for it with Bitcoin if there's a Bitcoin option available. And I'm okay with maybe spending a little bit more money or going out of my way to do business with a Bitcoiner. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, but it fundamentally it's important to me to help grow that economy and invest into that infrastructure. And
yeah,
one of those important points is people receiving Bitcoin in the Bitcoin economy is extremely important, especially when you consider the fact that, you can get a money that no one else, can track, no one else, has to even, know exists. It's, KYC free.
yeah,
It's your own personal money, and no one else has any say over that. And so receiving Bitcoin is super important, but those people can't receive the Bitcoin unless there's also somebody willing to give them that Bitcoin.
yeah,
And so I
yeah,
try to always be that person when I can. And I encourage other people to as well. So to answer your question, I don't know. I don't think that there's ever going to be like a a moment in time where everything just changes for everybody all at once. I think it's a step by step incremental approach to adoption where each
yeah,
person individually participates more in the Bitcoin economy every single day, a little bit more, one step at a time. And then, your neighbors and your family, they will start to get it too and they'll start to participate more. I think it's a very gradual thing. And I don't think that there's going to be a moment, at least I'm relatively sure. I can't say I'm positive, but I'm pretty sure that that's kinda gonna be the way that it goes for a while. At least until we reach some serious hyperinflation, with the US dollar, which I think comes eventually, but I don't know how far out that is.
Hmm.
yeah.
But as long as we're in single digit inflation, I think that, like, people are just gonna continually get more and more uncomfortable, and there will be a gradual shift over into Bitcoin when people realize that they can't print more of this stuff.
Yeah. And someone on our podcast recently shared too. It's like people will eventually pivot out of the dollar because they're just getting robbed. Like you're just getting robbed. It's a slow rob and a slow burn. So you don't see it, but we're all getting robbed every day, right? And kudos for you for, taking that next step, going out and going out of your way to send Bitcoin, spending your Bitcoin so people can receive it. I love when I get Bitcoin. I love when, I win like something on Twitter or something, or someone sends me stuff, or the sponsorships that we have with us on for our podcast. Like when they send us Bitcoin, like I'm like, dude, this is
Hmm.
this is nice. And what I wanted to add too is it's cool because Mana is now I'm thinking out loud. It sounds like it's so cool because people can be like, dude, I have Venmo, like I don't need that. Like, well, now there's Mana, and it's
Hmm.
just it's the same thing as Venmo, but it's for Bitcoin. So that's a great like correlation that I can I'll definitely utilize when I'm talking to people on that.
I love that. It's so awesome. I was trying to think too. What's one thing you wish more people understood about using Bitcoin today?
I think I kind of already mentioned it, but it is kind of just the mentality around spending Bitcoin. I think that if more people understood how important it was to spend Bitcoin rather than just hodl,
Yeah.
I think that the world would approach Bitcoin adoption a lot faster, and people would be more free because of it, and it would help divert some of the power and control away from the power structures that currently exist that do rob you every single day,
Yeah.
through inflation and money printing. And the fastest way away from that is through Bitcoin adoption. And I think that the lowest hanging fruit to Bitcoin adoption right now is for people to just get out and use Bitcoin in the Bitcoin economy. Go accept Bitcoin for something that you sell or produce or for your labor. Go spend Bitcoin with somebody that accepts Bitcoin. These things are things that any of us can do. We don't have to build a Bitcoin business. We don't have to start an awesome podcast like you guys have done. We don't, you don't even need to do any of these really complicated things.
Yeah.
You can just
Yeah.
go
Mhm.
live your life, switch your money to
Yes.
a better form of money, and Bitcoin will grow accordingly.
Dude, that is so good. That is so good because I'm not gonna lie, when I first entered it, it was like number go up, and then it was like, oh, I'm gonna hold on to this because I'm like, it's just a better money, and like I know where it's going. But mm, this podcast has definitely increased me spending. So now I go. I don't know if you saw, but yesterday. I went to the gas station. They have like this Bitcoin machine, and my one of my favorite questions now. I learned this from like Adam. He's like the Bitcoin pastor on X,
Oh.
and yeah, he always says one of the questions like everywhere he goes, like, hey, do you accept Bitcoin? And like that has been like my most favorite question now. Everywhere I go, like Costco, I'll be like, hey, do you accept Bitcoin? Or like you just get the funniest responses. Like they're when I went today, they're like, "Hey, do you guys accept Bitcoin?" And then they're like, "I'm sorry, we do not accept Bitcoin." And then yesterday at the gas station, like, "Hey, do you guys accept Bitcoin?" And then she's like, "You know what?" She was looking at me and she was like, we don't." And then this other guy's like, "No way!" Like the other cashier was like, "No way!" And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, you guys have a Bitcoin machine in here, so I'm just trying to figure out like,
What is this for?
this is money. This is money too." And then they're like, "No way, dude." They're like, "Okay, cool, no problem. Like, here, I'll just get this gas, right?" But it's something that's really, it's so fun because I think it also gets people's heads turning, right? Because Bitcoin is way more like you shared with us. 10 years now, it's the adoption has been like so much, right? With Square Did Block, TV, people discussing it, presidents, and so I'm like, if we're talking about it amongst each other in businesses, right? And I don't know, in everyday life, it's just like I think it gets people's wheels turning, and it's just been one of my new favorite things now to talk about. And now I can like have Manna and like talk about Manna or onboard people easily with something like this, right? Um,
Yeah, and I think as a a lot of couples aren't always on the same page, right? So that's kind of one of the reasons why we started this podcast was to show like, hey, you can still learn something new on my end, right? Me coming into it later, and I think if this conversation would have been kind of introduced earlier, I probably would have been more excited initially about it
yeah,
because before it was like we're saving, we're saving, we're saving. I'm like, okay, well, we have like a family, we got things to do, we got, like we're just saving forever. And then this just goes into this black hole of saving,
You
like
sound
we never,
exactly like my wife, by the way.
yeah,
At least how she was in the beginning.
yeah. Like, I mean, literally, I was just like, I don't understand what you're saying right now. So I think this whole process of adoption is coming from different angles of, yes, the adoption process for even or like OG Bitcoiners, right? Really starting to use it more, helping their brains turn a little bit about using Bitcoin,
yeah,
helping couples or families really adopting the process of using their Bitcoin, having different conversations around it where, because we have the fiat world. So then I'm like, okay, well, I guess we could use our fiat, but you just told me this was really good money. So then like,
yeah,
why are we using, like,
yeah.
so, you have these back and forth conversations. So
Hmm.
I think what you've created is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. So one thing to be aware of is I think there's like also been there's really two things. One is the understanding of this the savings technology and taking self custody in the form of what we would call cold storage, which is a
Yes.
little bit more of an advanced subject, right? It's a pretty big step to take. Uh, and some people think that you have to go straight to cold storage in order to take self custody, which isn't necessarily the case, right? So, with Mana, you can hold your own keys and kind of get familiar with that practice of, recovery and managing and storing 12 words securely, and it gives you like a really good starting point, and it's a good what I would consider like orange pilling introductory adoption tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before you jump headfirst into cold storage, my parents are a good example. They had some Bitcoin for a while, and they were just like they had it on Coinbase, and I kept telling them like, you got to get your coins off of Coinbase. You got to take it, get it into self custody. And then we would see all these exchanges go under, and then the FTX thing blew up, and it's like, is Coinbase next? Well, I don't know. They could be. Do you want to know for sure that your Bitcoin is yours? You got to take self custody. And this was over a multi-year period, and I hadn't built Manna yet, and they just couldn't do it. I couldn't. I got them all the hardware that they needed. They were all set up. I was there with them, willing to help them through this process multiple times. We started, and they just couldn't get it. And
Yeah.
then I released Manna, and I'm like, okay, try this. And it was super easy for them. They got it right away, and they're like, okay, now I get it. And now they're in cold storage, right? So it
Let's
was like a it
go.
was like a stepping stone process for them.
It
They
is.
That's
realized what
great.
self custody was, and then they could go from Manna. Now they understand they can go from Manna to their cold storage very easily, and it's a very easy process. But I think the step from like not even understanding what self custody is to cold storage, it's a pretty big leap. The other thing that I was going to mention is that there's like this narrative and this push that Bitcoin isn't money, right? And that you need to only hold it and you should never spend it. And you just got to be careful with who you're hearing that from, and make sure that they don't have something else to sell you, because I feel like
Mhm.
there are a lot of, people, organizations, companies out there that want to sell you something that's not Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin's actually really not very dangerous in a
Yeah.
sense if it's just held in self custody and never spent, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't worry the state or the governments one bit, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't threaten the fiat central banking cabal
Yeah.
if it's just held in cold storage and never used. It becomes threatening to the dollar. It becomes threatening to the world. Uh, the central banking apparatus, as soon as you can use that Bitcoin freely without their permission, and that's what they want. They want control.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so they don't want you to spend your Bitcoin, because then you're taking control back of your own life rather than giving it to them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's so good. I never actually seen it, but wait, like, cause it's like, oh, well, if you're holding this thing, like, why are you holding it? It actually makes it sound dangerous, right? You're like, well, why are you holding this thing? And now, like, well, if we're using it every day, it's like, well, all these people are interacting with it. Like, why aren't you interacting with it, right? Why aren't you interacting with
Right.
it? So they probably love that we're just holding it,
Mhm.
and we're actually not like creeping into like everyday society, utilizing this
Mm.
money, this good money.
Yeah.
Um, and to add on to this too, so did a little bit of research, listened to some podcasts. I know Manna got hacked. I don't know exactly like what this means with Manna, because it is self custody, right? And so if you can explain to us a little bit and address it to all our listeners, like why should I even consider using Manna with this, right? And because I just don't know all the details on it, so just giving you the floor to share.
Yeah, I'll start with, I'll kind of tell it chronologically. So, a few months ago, almost a year ago, not quite, maybe 7 or 8 months ago, I was going to be giving a presentation at the Kansas City Bitcoin Summit. So we were having like a conference here locally. I'm from Kansas City, and probably I think it was like 3 days before the conference, our servers got hacked. So somebody found a way in, they hacked our servers, and they tried to hold us ransom essentially. Like, they wanted us to pay them money. They're like, "Hey, we got a hold of your server. We got a hold of all your data." And hold on, let me finish this, because this is really important. So stick to the end of the story. And they're like, "We have everybody's keys." And that's when I knew, like, that they were bluffing, because like, there's no keys, there's no data, there's no anything. And so, long story short, it was actually a really good thing that we got hacked, because it showed us where our vulnerability was in our server. The worst thing that happened was people couldn't send transactions on Manna for a few hours. But no customer data, no funds were at risk. None of that was ever a problem, because we don't have any of that. And that
Yeah.
was
Okay.
honestly, it actually was a great opportunity for me to share that because I shared that story as part of my presentation at the conference, just to demonstrate the difference between a self-custodial wallet and somebody that is custodial. If we were a custodial wallet, the Bitcoin would be gone. User funds would be, completely drained. All of the information and data that we've had that we don't have any, but these centralized wallets, would have usernames, emails, whatever. That would have all been leaked on the dark web. It would have been really bad. We don't
Yeah.
have any of that, and so there was nothing for them to take from us. And all of our users were 100% safe. Everybody's funds were safe, and it was actually a really good happy ending. And it made
Okay.
Yeah.
for a really good story. So yeah, we found the vulnerability. So I actually, the guy was like holding us for ransom, so to speak. And just because one, I kind of felt bad that this guy felt like he had to resort to, crime in order to pay his bills. And two, because he actually did help us find a vulnerability, I went ahead
Yeah.
and I paid him some money. I'm like, here you go. There's your finder's fee for, your bug bounty. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's like, and so I think I probably orange pilled him along the way. It's like, hey, now he knows how important self custody is, right? Because he's
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
I'm sure he's been hacking like custodial wallets for a long time, and then ran into Manna. He's like, oh wait, there's nothing here.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I got a few questions that kind of came from that. So he shut down Manna where they couldn't transact for a few hours, right? So did you number one, so do you know how many people are utilizing Manna? Like, hey, there's like 1,050 people that have downloaded or utilized Manna. Like, do you know that number on your guys' end?
It's really funny you say that because I think our active users, is probably actually somewhere around that right now. Like our monthly active users is probably somewhere a little over 1,000.
Wow.
Um, we don't have granular visibility because it's a privacy focused wallet. We don't have any way to monitor uh, on a granular detail what people are doing on our app. But we can see some detail, like we can see when people update their apps to new versions and stuff like that through the Play Store and the Google App Store. And so I would say that it's to the best of my knowledge and to our account, there's been probably somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 wallets created on Mana at this point, and then about 1,000 to maybe up to 2,000 active that are actively using it.
Okay, so if for in the future, Mana blows up, everyone's utilizing it. It's a great, payment system. You'll really never have an accurate amount of like how many people are actually using Mana. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I would say that's true. So we can monitor things like downloads in the Play Store and the Apple App Store, but people can also download Mana without those. So they can go through,
Mhm.
download the app directly without us ever even knowing anything about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and so there's only so much information we're going to be able to collect just because we built it in such a way that you know doesn't require that. And I think that that's really another just principle of building software that I would like to see more of in the world.
Okay.
Everybody's all data hungry, and all these tech platforms are just trying to collect as much data as they can at the expense of their users. And so, yeah, we built Mana in a way that we don't have to rely on that, and we don't think you should.
Yeah.
Nice. So with that being said, oh, did you have a question, Dad?
No, I just think it's awesome because I think it would be really hard as someone who's developing an app not to wonder how many people, but actually it would go against my whole belief system of Bitcoin. And then it's just this like teetering of like,
Mm-hmm.
gosh, I'd really like to know the exact number, but also I truly believe in not
Yeah.
knowing all this information about people too. So in my brain, I'd be like, oh, I want to know, but then I also don't want to know.
So there's a couple reasons behind that.
Yeah.
The first of which I believe it's just wrong, but so do most people, right? But is that enough to sway their decision? Many times it's not.
Hmm.
And the reason why I feel like I've been able to do this, I attribute a lot of it to the fact that I have Bitcoin. I don't hold a money that constantly loses value. I
Yeah.
can I can play the slow game. I can, as they say, focus on my craft,
Yeah.
because I have
Exactly.
my net worth is in an asset that appreciates over the long term rather than depreciates. So that changes a lot. The other
Yes.
thing is venture capital. So a lot of businesses and startups and apps and companies, they go out and they raise money from venture capitalists, and these venture capitalists are usually short term focused, and can be greedy at times, right? They need their
Yes.
they need their payout, and I don't mean to say that in a completely negative sense, because you got to make money somehow, but it usually, in many cases, ends up being more of a short-term play than it is the long-term play. Venture capitalists want to make the investment, and then they have an exit strategy. And sometimes what I see in the Bitcoin space specifically is a lot of times those exit strategies involve altcoins, they involve stablecoin involvement, they do things that a lot of Bitcoiners would consider fairly shady and not necessarily beneficial to the Bitcoin ecosystem. They're collecting data and selling that data, things like that. And so the fact that we've never taken venture capital, we've never taken any donations of any kind. We are all 100% self-funded. Allows us to just do things the slow way and the way that we think things are done right.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's really good. And a lot of people that are not in the Bitcoin space, I think that would be hard for them to grasp what you just shared right now, to be able to work on your craft, because this is a long-term play, right? So then you get to work on things that you care about or spend your time where you want. Um, so just to add on that, does Manna get funded anyway, or is this something that's just self-funded? Like, I know we live in this world where we're like, hey, if I'm gonna spend my time here, I'm gonna make money. I want to make money on if I'm building something great like Manna, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. A little bit of both in the sense that it's partially philanthropy, partially, a for-profit business, but both at the same time. So obviously, like I mentioned earlier, I had started and ran a successful mining business in the past that allowed me to fund Manna. So Manna is funded 100% by me. It's a passion project. It does, it does have some revenue. It's very small because it's just based on transaction fees, which are very nominal. As Manna grows and scales, that will scale and grow with the business as well too. So Manna is not profitable by any means today, but the idea and the goal is to become profitable, and we're getting closer to that every month. And so, yes, I do anticipate profitability at some point. It's not just only for the love of the game, although that was a prerequisite to building the business in
Yeah.
the first place.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing that, because I know some people. Number one, I think this is great. That I think you're way ahead of the curve, way ahead of the game when it comes to building something like this, right? And then again, when it gets to that scalability, because we all know where Bitcoin's going to go long term, so it will come, right? And so, thanks for creating Manna. It sounds great. We're super excited to use it right after we get off of this. I'm super excited to like dive in and look at the Bitcoin maps as
I
well.
know that's the cool part because we're always out with our family. We try to get out and about and just be with our kids, and it'd be really great to be able to show our kids because they know we have a Bitcoin podcast. They're
Yeah.
always like, "Are you doing
Yeah.
a podcast?" Or they're always
Yeah.
asking questions, and I'm like,
Yeah.
they're probably like me initially, like, what is this Bitcoin that you're talking about? And so being able to see us using it, in our everyday
Yeah,
life, I
that's it.
think that's going to be super helpful for them to see.
Yeah.
And it kind of as we navigate the whole financial literacy and all of that fun talk as they get older. But yeah, it's really awesome.
I'm huge on kids, by the way. I mean, a big part of, the design is based around whether or not a kid can use it. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she
Okay.
gets really excited about using Manna, and she's always watching me watch the Bitcoin podcasts and all that fun stuff and getting involved with Bitcoin. And she likes to she's run little shops where she's like hand knit like pot holders and stuff, and she's sold chicken eggs and stuff for Bitcoin, and she uses Manna to do that, and she has a lot of fun with it. But again, a big part of Manna is involving the kids. We're
Yeah.
really focused on making sure that the kids are able to use it as a tool. We actually introduced a test net. We call it Manna Net. So on Manna, you can actually go into this special environment where it is all of the functions of Manna, but with pretend Bitcoin, right? So it's not real value. It's like play money. So you can
That's
actually use
cool.
Manna, use Bitcoin, use all of this. You can set up your store and do all the fun stuff, but with, pretend money.
Dude,
That
that's
is so
really
neat.
cool. That's really cool. He's like, oh, well, let me dip my toe in real quick before I go into the deep end and have a business, run an actual business with this. So again, these are Mana sounds like the great onboarding stepping stone before cold storage, before running a business on this. I really like this,
Yeah.
Adam, and I really appreciate you taking
Mhm.
your time out today. I have two last questions. My first question before is like, so how big is Mana? Like your team? You guys have a team, or is it just you?
Yeah, we have three of us that work basically full time, and then we have some contract work as well on the outside. But it's mostly just the three of us.
That's great. Oh my goodness. Because the way the scalability will be, and just having, I mean, probably you might get more in the future, but
As it
to
grows,
be
yeah.
for Mana, I think Mana is a very big idea. And for all the people that are using it, 1,000 plus, right? I think we're still early, but I still think 1,000 plus Mana users, active Mana users run by a team of 4 people. That's incredible. Wow. So kudos to you, for developing this. That's amazing.
Thank you.
One of the last questions we like to ask to kind of wrap things up a little bit here is someone's getting new into the Bitcoin space and they are just testing their waters or probably listening to this podcast for the first time on Bitcoin. What's some advice that you would give to someone that's first entering into the Bitcoin space?
I have this sticker on my bottle. This is just my water bottle that I carry with me everywhere, and it's
Okay.
40 HPW. Do you guys know what 40 HPW means?
No,
No.
no.
It stands for 40 hours per week, and the idea is to listen to 40 hours of Bitcoin podcasts every week. Um,
Oh, nice.
so that was popularized by a podcast group called The Bugle, by the way. But I
Uh-huh.
really latched onto the to that idea almost literally. So although it is intended to be satire, I also take it literally. I think that like it's good to just listen to. I mean, even today, like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years. I still probably listen to 40 hours of Bitcoin podcasts a week. It's that important to me. So while I'm driving anywhere, working around the house, whatever, I'm trying to stay up to date with all the podcasts, and I'm learning new stuff all the time still. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, podcasts. I mean, they're the cheat code. Books are cool too. I like listening to audiobooks. But I definitely think podcasts are one of those things that needs to be a part of every new Bitcoiner's journey because that's how you figure everything out. That's how I figured everything out. And I think that it's a shortcut in order to learn as much as you really want to learn about Bitcoin. You need to be listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that. That's a first. Thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
watch more of this podcast too, by the way. Make sure you subscribe, like this
yes.
video, and share with your friends.
Thank
Dude,
you so
thanks,
much, Adam.
Adam.
We appreciate you so much and your time and taking time out on your kind of chill day to come hang out with us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to the Moon with the Lunas, and we'll see you all on the moon.
Peace.